let's talk about the Jets. Jets. Just in the season is usually the chant that we hear from Jets fans, but there's some reason for excitement, or is there? Coach Robert Saleh says Zach Wilson is improving, and especially physically. He says, quote, he's definitely hit the weight room. He looks beefy, but in a good way. He's definitely filled out. So, Jenks, are you buying into the hype that Zach Wilson is actually going to be better?
Well, yeah, he has to be a little bit better, right? How much better is the real question here. And I'm not of the opinion that just because he's bulked up in the weight room that suddenly he's going to throw the football a whole lot better. I think he'll be better. But last year, Chelsea, he was not good. 3-10 as a starter, 180 yards per game, 9 touchdowns, 11 picks. I think naturally when you make the transition to the NFL, there's such a huge learning curve. Doesn't matter how talented you were in college. And also, it doesn't help that he plays for a terrible football team. So certainly physical improvement is part of that equation. I think he'll be better, but I'm certainly not sold on the Jets suddenly becoming a factor in the AFC East because Zach Wilson is suddenly beefy.
That's the thing. Your stature and your improvement in the weight room has nothing to do with you throwing more interceptions than touchdowns last year. Last year, Zach Wilson had 9 touchdowns to 11 interceptions. That has nothing to do with his weight. It has nothing to do with his conditioning. So don't sit there and tell me, well, he's gotten bigger this year. That has nothing to do with decision making. I will say there should be some reason for upside, I guess, with the Jets, just because I do think that their draft was especially good. I think they got some good pieces in the draft. But looking at the AFC East, it's not an especially winnable division. When you have the Bills and Josh Allen, who just seems to be getting better each and every year, the Dolphins, who just got Tyreek Hill, and maybe Tua can get the ball down the field to him this year, and then the Patriots, who at least were good against bad teams last year with Mac Jones. So I just think for the Jets, it's a matter of playing in a pretty tough division. I think it's still going to be an uphill climb, and the odds suggest that. The Jets are plus 1,800 to win the AFC East.
They're not going to win the AFC East. Their win total set at 5.5, juice to the over. That is a low number. But, man, I'm not going to make that pick. However, I just think that I love what the Jets did in the draft. So you're absolutely right about that, where in the future, your future is certainly trending the right way. They probably had the best draft of any team in the NFL. But I don't believe you're going to have 3 rookies come in and make such an impact that all of a sudden these guys challenge for the division. Now, moving forward, maybe they'll be more competitive. But right now, the Bills are the favorites in the East at minus 190, and they should be. I think this is Buffalo's year. But down the road, if Wilson develops and those draft picks sort of come to fruition, clearly they have A.J. Brown, then all of a sudden maybe the Jets will be that team that is competitive again, and we're talking about them without sort of snickering under our breath. But I'm not going to buy it just yet.
None of this matters unless Zach Wilson improves. You can have all the greatest pieces around him, and I guess maybe you can keep it close with your defense, but if your quarterback is constantly sabotaging the game by throwing the ball away, and listen, as somebody who has bet on the Jets a couple of times, I remember that game in London where they played the Falcons, and I thought to myself, oh, maybe the Jets can cover this situation. There were multiple throws where Zach Wilson hit his receiver in the back of the head. The receiver wasn't even looking. So until we see some big improvement from Zach Wilson, the NFL is such a quarterback-driven league where you can't bet on a team that you don't know anything about their quarterback. And he hasn't really shown signs of improvement, at least to me.
Well, also, are you really going to bet and all of a sudden be hot on the Jets just because Zach Wilson started lifting weights? It'll help him. It'll help him because of the physical toll that the NFL takes on you. And certainly when you're a quarterback, you take a lot of shots. So that will be good for his development. In that, he'll be stronger and maybe it keeps him healthier throughout the course of the season. But just being filled out and suddenly hitting the weights doesn't make me think, oh, well, all of a sudden Zach Wilson's going to hit his receivers in the hands instead of the back of the head now. No, it's a nice little story. It's a nice little caveat. And maybe it makes you feel a little bit better about his development. But I got to see it on the field, not in the weight room.
Think about how crazy that win was for Rich Strike. Rich Strike was 80-1 to win the Kentucky Derby. Zach Wilson is 150-1 to win NFL MVP. That is how long the odds are. And it would be crazy if he won it. So I don't think that's going to be one of the stories that we see etched into the history books.